Walker, KO, Walker, KO, Walker, KO, Walker, KO. Red, white, black. Bitch, tell me what
This was
let's do it. Man, they think they can see us, man. This ass on two shit, my niggas. They can't see us, man. Well, see my birds, you understand, nigga. Zone City, whatever.
I think that only happens in the movies.
What happens when the story dies? The evil is set free. Now that the films have ended, the genie's out of the bottle.
Cut the effect!
Isn't there somebody who can stop him?
That person's you.
Why me?
But it was you that gave Nancy her strength.
What's going on, YouTube? We back in the Low Key Cave, Keyshawn Iams' YouTube page, aka Mr. Low Key, aka the Low Key Horror Cave. Yes, you know it's October, so we got a lot of horror movies we're going to be reviewing, horror top 10s, horror movie verses, everything pertaining to horror movies and Halloween. And we are back with a retro horror movie review, and we are doing Wes Craven's New Nightmare, 1994. Rest in peace to Wes Craven, man. This is definitely in my top 10 as far as favorite horror movies of all time. I was always a fan of just the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise overall, but essentially Freddy Krueger became a stand-up comedian while killing people, basically. Like, all that little seriousness, anything about him, as far as I would say from the first three movies, especially with Dream Warriors, as far as even having the actress that played Nancy, Heather Lane, coming back to play that role. Like I said, all the movies Nancy has been in has been the best ones. And if we had to compare as far as which Nightmare on Elm Street movie is the best featuring Nancy, as far as the first one, or Dream Warriors, or even this one, which one would y'all pick? Me personally, I would probably have to still go with Dream Warriors. That's just one of my favorites of all time. Outside of just the cast that I actually enjoy, as far as the whole premise with these kids being in this hospital because of them having these dreams and everything. Shout out to the little cameo by Lawrence Fishburne in that movie. And make sure y'all check out my retro review of A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors. But yeah, you know I gotta go show your boy Freddy some love, man. You know, gotta come in here and talk about your boy Freddy. Hold on, get it. Iconic horror icon, man. But when it comes to Wes Craven's New Nightmare, as far as just Wes Craven doing the whole breaking the fourth wall, and essentially this movie is about making a new movie as far as a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Once again, Wes Craven and him even coming up with this idea, you see it in the Scream franchise as far as what he did with the Stab movies and making them kind of a part of the whole Scream movies and kind of breaking the fourth wall and doing that with that. And this was kind of his first introduction into doing that with Wes Craven's New Nightmare, man. But anybody who's not familiar with this, which I feel like you should be, plot-wise, we are back. And not necessarily with the character Nancy, but the actress who plays Nancy, Heather Lane. And this movie is essentially about them coming back together as far as Wes Craven, Robert Englund, and Heather Lane making a new Nightmare on Elm Street. And that's the big thing, because essentially the last Nightmare was supposed to be the last Nightmare. So that was a really good premise overall right there. Just them coming up with that idea as far as Wes Craven. So what I really enjoy about this, outside of what they do with Freddy, which I'm going to talk about, is Heather Lane, she is this franchise somewhat. Like, she is this franchise as far as her being in the best movies as far as the sequels and the original movie. But really, what really took this up another notch was the introduction to her son, Dylan. And it's really that whole thing with him kind of having these whole, not premonitions, but nightmares about Freddy, because the essential thing with this is, it used to be the whole thing we know Freddy and him being in the nightmares and him trying to, well, not trying, but taking the kids into his world. But now the whole premise with this is that Freddy is trying to get into our world. And it's more so not the character of Freddy, but if this thing or this certain entity was real as far as Freddy Krueger, this is essentially what he would be trying to do. So you know, all the original Nightmare movies, essentially him staying in the dream world where he has full control, because you know a lot of those movies end up being a situation where they try to bring him over to the real world, and that's the way they are able to defeat him. But Wes Craven, shout out to him, who puts definitely a spin on that and making it a thing where no, he wants to be in the real world. He wants to cause this havoc. Shout out to the opening sequence of this, man. Once again, Wes Craven being who he is and able to pull off opening movies. The whole animatronics with the glove, man, and kind of giving us somewhat of a like aliens face hugger moment as far as the way the alien was moving and everything. I really enjoyed that. Essentially, though, it's following Nancy, and I keep calling her Nancy, but Heather, the actress that plays Nancy, and her son, and what they're going through, because she's already paranoid, and it's the fact that them coming back together to make this movie is kind of putting her in a position where she's uncomfortable, and it's like she's already not really feeling the coming back to this role, being that she's now got a family, and it's the whole thing with the horror aspect. Some of my favorite moments in here is seeing Dylan going through his phases as far as the nightmares, but not only that, him waking up in moments and him watching the older Nightmare on Elm Street movies, man, which is not only some good Easter eggs, but it's essentially making those movies even more a little bit scarier and creepier. Even some of the ones which you might not feel like is as good or maybe even cheesy or goofy or whatever, Wes Craven's New Nightmare kind of makes those movies more, I guess, not relevant, but more so frightening. It kind of gives them more of a darker essence because of the way Dylan is looking at them and kind of like, oh shit, we as kids did watch these movies and Freddy was doing some fucked up shit, and it's the fact that he was killing kids. Give or take, depending on how you look at the actors or actresses who was playing the kids, they're probably in their mid-20s or whatever. But anyway, man, I like those moments. It kind of took, it once again was giving us back that essence of how dark A Nightmare on Elm Street essentially was, especially with that first movie. Let's talk about it. Freddy, though, the whole thing with leading up into this is the fact that, once again, like I said, Freddy Krueger was a stand-up comedian. Essentially, probably after, I would say, the first three movies, that fourth movie and moving forward in the next couple sequels, he just came a comedian. He was basically joking around. I remember that last movie, man, what was it, Freddy the Final Nightmare, where he was just being a complete goofy. Like, he had a whole sequence where he put a guy put a boy in a video game with him and started pretty much playing with him, using him, because he was pretty much high and he went into a dream sequence or whatever. But it was more so Freddy being a jokester, and we wasn't afraid of him. We was more so just laughing with him or laughing at him. When it comes to Wes Craven's New Nightmare and what he's able to do with him, because it's almost like he approached just the way Steven Spielberg approached Jaws and not even letting us really get Freddy. And what they would do different as far as the movie they was trying to make and giving us Robert Englund coming out there, and the fact that Robert Englund is playing Freddy Krueger, but what they was able to pull off as far as having a real actor there and having Wes Craven there, and the whole thing with this movie essentially being something as far as Freddy trying to come into the real world. But like I said, what they was able to do with Freddy Krueger and bring him back to being scary and menacing, that was the thing. And
Miss me?
And the whole thing with kind of teasing him, and when he finally actually shows up, yes, it was worth the wait. Not only that, them kind of giving him a sign of an updated wardrobe or whatever for that time period and making him look more terrifying. But yes, man, shout out to Robert Englund and the performance and what he was able to do by making Freddy, basically making him scary again. That's what's making him scary again. He still got kind of some one-liners here and there, and he's kind of being funny here and there a little bit, but it's more so of a, like, it ain't funny where you like hi-hiing at him. It's more so funny like, how like nervous laugh. Like you sitting there like, I don't know if I even supposed to be laughing with him. Maybe he's looking at me like, Wes Craven definitely made sure to make Freddy Krueger menacing, made him scary again, and especially with the situations between him and Dylan and the kills, man. Him paying homage to the original movie with one of the kills to the babysitter, and even with them playing on that, because we don't even essentially get like kills like that early on in the movie. Like Freddy Krueger, like I said, don't really pop up to like maybe, I would say 45 to 50 minutes into the movie. I could be wrong, but if it felt like that, because the movie essentially is not that long, but I'm thinking about when I probably at first watched it, or even replay value, and probably times that I don't rewind certain scenes trying to catch everything, because all of these moments with the conversations between Heather and Wes Craven, as far as the actress that played Nancy and Wes Craven, or even the moments between Robert Englund and him doing these little paintings or whatever, and kind of like he's trying to bring Freddy into the real world, like he know something is going on, or all of them are essentially having these same nightmares, and they know what's going on, even especially like I said, the conversation between Wes Craven and Heather, as far as him telling her, like, you are essentially going to have to play this character again, not in the movies, but in the real world, to essentially stop him. But once again, man, it's the way they reintroduce Freddy. And like I said, making us look at this guy like, okay, he is not joking, he ain't playing, he is very dangerous. Outside of that, man, I really enjoyed this ending too. Because like I said, it's like that big standoff again, and this is kind of the moments where we was getting kind of that funny Freddy again, but it was still him being scary. And not only that, what they did with the practical effects. Wes Craven is definitely all over with practical effects in this movie, outside of what he kind of do with the animatronics, with the glove or whatever. But especially with this ending, and you know the crazy shit Freddy do with his body and stuff and all of that. He does a lot of that, especially at this ending, especially dealing with Dylan or whatever. But essentially, this is Heather and Dylan's story, as far as AKA Nancy and Dylan's story, and what they're dealing with Freddy and him trying to come back. And shout out to even the moments with Heather and her husband, and him pretty much in the denial, you know, that whole situation, and him finding that way too late that, oh, this shit is really happening, because he's one of the ones that's like special effects person that's working on the movie too. So it's like one big family. But yes, this is definitely one of my favorite top 10 horror movies of all time. The fact that we got that essence back with A Nightmare on Elm Street, as far as the first original one especially, and even those dark moments as far as even those kills. Remember that Johnny Depp kill in the first one, man? He fucked him up. But definitely some good moments in here. That hospital scene, man, definitely was a good moment. But outside of that, man, let me know how y'all feeling as far as Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Is this one of y'all favorite movies? As far as the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, is this one of the best sequels? Or do y'all have any other recommendations in mind? And even when it comes to as far as Freddy Krueger overall in the Nightmare franchise, I feel like they had some of the best sequels as far as what they was doing early on. Think about the Halloween franchise and what they started to do with that, even with Season of the Witch. And I like Halloween 4, but what they did with Halloween 5 and kind of messing that shit up and going into the Curse of Michael Myers, Halloween H2O, and we already know Halloween Resurrection, Busta Rhymes and all that. But even with Chucky, it was kind of that same thing when it came to Chucky and Freddy Krueger, as far as the way they talk and the whole thing with them being funny and the jokes or whatever. And they definitely took that way above and beyond and over the top when it came to Chucky. Bride of Chucky was not bad, but when it came to Curse of Chucky, it was done after that. And you see what they essentially are doing with him now. And it's still kind of jokers with him a little bit as far as Chucky in the TV show, but he is kind of, especially with that first season, kind of got back a little bit to his essence of being a little scary too. Give or take, a doll in 2023 may not be that scary. But anyway, pertaining to just Freddy Krueger, even with the Jason movies, essentially dealing with two killers who don't talk as far as Michael Myers and Jason, eventually he got silly too, because it was all about just the way he was going to kill people, and that shit started to go over the top, and even the way he was bringing, they was bringing him back as far as him being the killer or whatever. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out the way as far as kind of the comparison to other horror icons and the other sequels, and what I feel like the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise did right. Essentially though, y'all let me know how y'all feeling about this. Let me know if this one of y'all favorite horror movies of all time as far as top 10 or even around the Halloween time. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell, let you know when I upload new videos. Other than that, we out.